Broncos country, welcome to my Week 8 game preview where the Denver Broncos are hosting the Dallas Cowboys for Week 1 of 3 for the throwback unis. And I'm excited that this year they're deciding to use their 3 games all with the throwbacks. Of course, last year on Monday Night Football against the Browns, we had the alternate uniforms with the navy jerseys, navy pants, and then the white helmet. But you can only wear 3 alternate helmets per year as the current rules sit. So I'm glad they're using 3 of them with the throwbacks, of course, this week against Dallas, week 10 against the Raiders, and then I believe the final one is against the Chargers at the end of the year. It's the Chargers or the Chiefs, but I believe it's the Chargers at the end of the year. But yeah, if you do enjoy this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below, as the support is greatly appreciated. Let's go ahead and let's get started with my Week 8 game preview. As always, let's take a look at the records. The Broncos, we are 5-2 and in first place in the AFC West, right? I know the Chargers played on Thursday, but we're saying what the records were coming into the week, obviously because we haven't got to play yet. We're 5-2 in first place in the AFC West, and the Cowboys, they're 3-3, second place in the NFC East. Now, let's take a look at my keys to victory. The first thing is I think the Broncos, we need to have a complete game, right? I feel like the only complete game that we've played thus far in the year was that Cincinnati Bengals game on Monday Night Football. And even then, I feel like there were things that we could have improved on. So not a complete game so far other than the Bengals game, like I mentioned. Want to see a full 60 minutes of football played from the Denver Broncos, not struggling through the first half and then, let's switch it on in the second half and start playing football now. The second thing we need to do is pressure Dak Prescott. He is having a fantastic season this year, and we need to get pressure on him. We need to affect the pass, whether that's tipping a pass, whether that's getting pressure from the interior or pressure from our edge rushers. Dak Prescott has to be pressured. We cannot allow him to sit in the pocket and dissect us all game, right? He's going to hurt us through the air. He's having a fantastic season. Got to pressure Dak Prescott. The third thing we need to do is we need to take off the offensive handcuffs. We need to play how we did through the final fourth quarter, and I guess you could say third quarter leading up to that first scoring drive, but it really felt like it was week 2 last year when Bo Nix was a rookie against the Steelers. And it was all these limited passes, right? Screens, checkdowns, short yard passes, run plays. Not really many deep shots or even intermediate shots that are going to go like 7 to 15 yards to pick up these good, solid chunk plays. It just felt off. And then the fourth quarter hit. We had to play catch up. Sean Payton was dialing up, and he was making some fantastic play calls. Bo Nix was making the correct reads. He was throwing the ball down the field. So Sean needs to trust Bo, unleash him, not only with throwing the ball intermediate and deep and limiting the screen passes, but also dial up some design runs for Bo Nix. We saw how effective he could be using his legs at the end of last week's game. We need to involve Bo Nix more in this week's game. And then the fourth thing we need to do is establish the run. I feel like we really didn't establish the run last week. Dobbins had a solid game, but it felt like we started to run the ball more and more and more in the fourth quarter, and at the end of the third quarter, that's where we started to get the run game going. We need to establish the run game if we want the passing game to open up as well. So need to establish the run game early rather than, I think the first drive was all passes, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of screen passes. So we need to have a much more sophisticated and balanced attack on offense. Moving on to the injuries, the first thing is Dre Greenlaw is suspended for the one game because Brad Allen was a tattletale essentially. End of the game, everyone's running onto the field. Brad Allen pushes Justin Strnad, so Dre Greenlaw runs after him and lets him have it, and then he gets suspended for a game. And also, apparently, Justin Strnad is going to get fined for what? I don't know. Maybe that was a fake report, but if he does get fined for getting pushed by Brad Allen, that's ridiculous. And then Jonah Ellis and Mike McGlinchey were the only ones on the injury report this week. Jonah Ellis with that shoulder injury, which caused him to miss the Jets game and then the Giants game last week. And then Mike McGlinchey, we saw him get injured at the end of last week's game versus the Giants. Both of them were full participants in practice the past few days. Well, not the past few days, but on Friday, they were both full participants in practice. So That's going to be a good sign. Obviously, we want Mike McGlinchey starting because he's one of our starting offensive linemen, and he's been solid for us all season. We don't want to ruin the chemistry and destroy the offensive line even more. And then Jonah Ellis, he plays a big part in this Denver defense, right? Nick Bonitto and Jonathan Cooper, when they come off the field, Jonah Ellis being on the field, it provides that same pressure because he gets after the quarterback. He's going to pressure the quarterback. So having him in there as that third edge rush guy is a big, big key component and big contributor on our defense. Then you got the Cowboys, and they have a whole heck of a lot of injuries. Trayvon Diggs was ruled out with a concussion. Same with one of their safeties, Donovan Wilson. Cooper Beebe, the former Kansas State Wildcat, he is questionable with an ankle injury. Anjay Cornelius is questionable with a knee injury. Marshawn Nealon, questionable with an ankle injury. DeMarvion Overshone's out with a knee injury. Siobhan Revel Jr., one of the top corners in this past draft, fell to the third round. He's still dealing with a knee injury. Wanye Thomas is questionable with a migraine. And then Tyler Guyton is questionable with a glute injury for the Cowboys. Let's take a look at the head coaching matchup, and it's going to be Sean Payton versus Brian Schottenheimer. Of course, Payton in his 18th year, third with the Broncos. You can see he has 175 wins, 107 losses with a 621 winning percentage. And Brian Schottenheimer, this is his first time as a head coach. Of course, his dad was a head coach, but so far this season, first obviously with the Cowboys, his only head coaching season this year, 7 games played, the 3 wins, 3 losses, the 1 tie against the Packers, so he has a 500 winning percentage. As for the coordinators in this game, the Broncos offensive coordinator is Joe Lombardi, our DC is Vance Joseph, and our special teams coordinator is Darren Rizzi. As for the Cowboys, their offensive coordinator is Clayton Adams, their defensive coordinator is former Bears head coach Matt Eberflus, and their special teams coordinator is Nick Sorensen. Let's take a look at the quarterback matchup now, and we got Bo Nix versus Dak Prescott. Starting here with Bo Nix, coming off of his best quarter of football in his career. I'm not going to say best game because got to play a full game for you to have your best game, but he had a fantastic fourth quarter last week. 2 touchdowns through the air, 2 on the ground, was phenomenal. Want to see that go and played out through a full 60 minutes of game time, but so far in the season, Bo Nix in his 7 games has 160 completions on 256 passing attempts for a 62.5% completion percentage. He's thrown for 1,556 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, had a lot of interceptions early in the season and has really limited those since. And he has a passer rating of an 87.3, but has also been getting it done on the ground. Of course, 38 carries for 172 yards and 3 touchdowns. 2 of those coming, of course, last week versus the Giants in that fourth quarter. Then you move on to Dak Prescott, and you can say what you like about Dak. You can make all the jokes you want. He's having a phenomenal season. Honestly, probably should be in the MVP race and having that MVP campaign. That's kind of it's still a little bit early, in my opinion, to start having those discussions. Of course, if you're a fan of teams, you always have those discussions. Like as Broncos fans, of course, we're talking about Nick Bonitto for Defensive Player of the Year. But I think for national recognition around the league, that comes in a couple weeks when the season is starting to wind down, but he is playing phenomenal, Dak Prescott is, and you can see why. 185 completions for a 71.4% completion percentage, 1,800 yards, 16 touchdowns, so 3 interceptions with a pass rating of 107.6, and he was also missing his wide receiver 1 in CeeDee Lamb. Now, you could obviously argue that George Pickens is a wide receiver 1 in his own right, and you're probably right in that state, but he was without CeeDee Lamb, and he is still producing, and he is still having a great season. So you can make all the jokes you want about Dak Prescott, but he is having a fantastic year thus far. As for the running backs going up against the Cowboys front 7, we have J.K. Dobbins, who has been phenomenal for us. I feel like he hasn't been talked about a whole lot these past few weeks, but he's getting the job done on the ground. 105 carries, 523 yards, averaging 5 yards per rush, 4 touchdowns. And then in terms of the receiving game, that's not really what Dobbins is utilized for in this offense. You're going to see more Harvey and Tyler Bidet used as receiving backs, but he does have 7 receptions for 22 yards. And then you move on to the aforementioned Harvey. With 6 games played, he has 37 carries for 154 yards, averaging 4.2 yards per carry. No rushing touchdowns yet in his career, but he has 17 receptions for 110 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. As for the Cowboys front 7, you're going to be going up against Sam Williams, Kenny Clark, Osa Odigizua, Dante Fowler Jr., Damone Clark, Shamar James, and Kenneth Murray Jr. And you can see on screen here what this unit has done. 6.5 sacks, 47 pressures, 41 blitzes, 25 quarterback hits. You can see their effect so far on defense. And I'll be honest, the Cowboys defense thus far in the season has been struggling. They're coming off of their best game of the season last week, but overall, I would say the Cowboys defense had been struggling up to that point. So we'll have to see what version of the Cowboys defense we get here on Sunday. As for the running backs that the Broncos front 7 are going to be facing, it's our old friend Javonte Williams. And I'll say this, good for Javonte Williams on reviving his career in Dallas. I always liked Javonte. I think back to those fond memories of his rookie year when he would make contact and then he wouldn't go down for 6-7 yards. He was just always churning. And I really think that ACL set him back. It was a very unfortunate time frame for Javonte Williams, right? Had that great rookie season. I think got off to a really strong start in his sophomore year, goes down in week 4 with that ACL injury, then comes back for year 3, wasn't really the same, and I think year 4 he was still recovering for that, and I guess you could have signed him to a 1-year deal, but it was just a really bad timeline for Javonte, so I'm happy to see him getting his job done here in Dallas and honestly having a career revival. You can see 111 carries for 592 yards, averaging 5.3 a carry with six touchdowns on the ground, while having 23 receptions for 85 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. His backup is going to be rookie Jaden Blue out of the University of Texas, a player I really liked in this past draft, and he only has 14 carries for 36 yards, averaging 2.6 a carry and 1 reception for 5 yards, but I do still think the upside for Jaden Blue is there. I really like him as a player, and I think the Cowboys have a really nice 1-2 tandem here, in my opinion. As for the defensive line that they're going to be going up against, it is going to be no joke. It's Zach Allen, DJ Jones, John Franklin Myers, Nick Benito, Alex Singleton, Justin Chernad, and Jonathan Cooper. And so far in the season, you can see 25.5 sacks on 76 blitzes, 59 quarterback hits, 73 pressures. This front 7 has been a unit. Struggled with the run early in the season, but it's really started to pick up their run defense over the past few weeks. As for the Broncos receivers versus the Cowboys corners, I had to shift this really quickly before recording because obviously Trayvon Diggs went down, or I guess not went down with an injury, but he's ruled out with his concussion. So had to take him out and shift, right? I got Courtland Sutton facing Deron Bland. Initially, Bland was on Franklin because he is their nickel corner, but we'll have to see how they line up, and it's not going to be a 1-for-1 matchup. These are just the top 3 guys right now, but Sutton is going to be on Deron Bland, Marvin Mims versus former Bills first-round pick Kaiir Elam, which that should be an interesting matchup, and then Troy Franklin versus their new nickel guy if you are moving Bland to the outside. It's going to be Reddy Stewart. Sutton this season has been phenomenal, just a reliable target for Bo Nix, coming up with clutch catch after clutch catch. If you need a reception in a big-time moment, you throw it to Sutton. Of course, Mims had a few of those catches last week, but Sutton, if you throw a jump ball up to him, he is more than likely going to come down with it. Of course, 7 games, has 33 receptions for 469 yards, averaging 4.2 a reception and 3 touchdowns on the season. Courtland Sutton has been phenomenal, and he's just been that familiarity for Bo Nix from year 1 to year 2, a reliable, trustworthy target. I will say, last week, not only this, and this isn't just singled at Courtland Sutton, but the Broncos as a whole really struggle in terms of catching the football, so hopefully drops are out of their system, and we don't see a whole lot of drops this weekend, this Sunday. Gonna knock on wood for that one. Then we have Deron Bland, who he's a really solid corner. I believe it was 2 years ago, he led the NFL in interceptions with 9. This season, he's allowed 21 completions on 33 targets, which is a 63.6 completion percentage, allowed 145 yards in the air and a 90.8 passer rating when targeted. He's allowed 2 touchdowns, does have 1 pick, 1 pass defended, missed 4 tackles, which is 13.8% of his tackle attempts. And then for the Broncos, we got Marvin Mims, who had a phenomenal game last week. Didn't have any touchdowns, but he had a lot of clutch catches. I think the first one was when we needed to, or it was the drive to take the lead for the first time in the game. It was 3rd and 11. Bo finds him on the right sideline, comes down with it for the first down. And then, of course, it was on the drive to go kick the game-winning field goal. Bo finds Marvin Mims just sitting in the middle of the field, comes up with the catch to obviously move the chains, get us closer to field goal range, spike the ball for an extra play to get another play off to make it an easier field goal for Will Lutz. You can see what he's done so far this season: 22 receptions on 31 targets, 234 yards in the air, averaging 10.6 a catch, 1 touchdown through the air, as well as 4 carries for 36 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground for Marvin Mims. As for Elam, you can see what he's done so far, and he's kind of bit of letdown since being drafted in the first round by the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, they shipped him off to Dallas this offseason, and he's had his ups and downs. I can't say I've watched a whole lot of Cowboys football to give a whole in-depth analysis of Kaiir Elam, but he'll be facing up against Marvin Mims. You can see his stats on screen. Again, stats aren't the end-all be-all. They're just there for a nice graphic for recording videos. Then you got Troy Franklin, who had that big game against the Indianapolis Colts, and then I felt like has quieted down just a little bit. Of course, against the Eagles a few weeks ago, had that big 2-point conversion catch, and then last week did have a touchdown. Did he have a 2-point conversion catch? I'm trying to think right now. He might have caught a 2-point conversion. I think he did, but regardless, so far this season, he has 27 receptions for 269 yards, averaging 10 yards per catch and 2 touchdowns on the season. I'd like to see Troy Franklin more involved, although he did drop a catch last week. It happened right in front of me on the visitor sideline. Unfortunate to see, but I would like to see Troy Franklin involved more. I think he is getting more and more targets. It'll just be interesting to see. There's some trade rumors going on, and we're not going to talk about that in this video. That's for another video. But I'd like to see Troy Franklin more involved and have that kind of drive he did against the Colts and really take over a game and just be this playmaker. When the ball's in his hands, he's going to make a play happen. He's going to get open in or down the field. But anyways, Troy Franklin is going up against Reddy Stewart, who's their new nickel guy, like I said, if they're moving Deron Bland to a boundary corner this season. You can see what he's done so far this season. As for the tight end position for the Broncos, it's going to be Evan Ingram, who is slowly been getting ramped up more and more usage. I would like to see him involved more. I would like to see more passing packages where Evan Ingram is going to be involved in them, because he does get a lot of receptions, or he's getting more receptions, I should say, but it feels like a lot of receptions are still going to Adam Troutman and Nate Atkins, and I think those are okay, right? Nate Atkins has really come on. I like what he's brought to the team, and then I still like what Adam Troutman brings to the team, but we brought Evan Ingram in to be this dynamic playmaker as this joker position, as Sean Payton calls it. In the offseason, we brought Evan Ingram in, and it feels like we haven't been utilizing him to his full potential. You can see 22 receptions for 179 yards and a touchdown. That's okay. I would like to see Evan Ingram more involved in this offense. As for the linebackers for the Cowboys, you can see Shamar James and Kenneth Murray Jr. Starting with Shamar James, he has been pretty solid in. Sorry, I misread this entire screen. But these are the linebackers that the Cowboys are going to be rolling out with: Shamar James, and then former Chargers first-round pick Kenneth Murray Jr. As for their safeties, Marquise Bell is going to be coming in. It's going to be one of their 2 backup safeties, right? Their safety, as I mentioned earlier, he went down with an injury. He has been ruled out. So Marquise Bell is who I'm guessing is going to be starting. Will be playing next to Wanye Thomas if he does play, because Wanye Thomas is questionable, I believe, from the injury report. So we'll have to see. It'll be interesting. The Cowboys could be without both of their starting safeties and without arguably their top corner in Trayvon Diggs. So it'll be interesting to see how the the Cowboys secondary, sorry if I've been saying Chargers this whole time, if this Cowboys secondary, what it's going to look like come Sunday, because obviously starting safety's out, Trayvon Diggs is out, and then Wanye Thomas could also be out. So it'll be interesting to see for the Broncos. As for the Broncos corners going up against the Cowboys receivers, this is going to be a very tough matchup, right? I do have Pat Surtain guarding CeeDee Lamb. You can see what CeeDee has done so far on the season. Of course, he's missed 3 games with an injury he sustained earlier this season, was finally back last week for the Cowboys. But I do expect Pat Surtain to be going up against CeeDee Lamb, right? We know what Pat does. He's going to blanket a receiver. He's essentially going to take them away for the most part of the game, right? We've seen it against Jamar Chase. We've seen it against a bunch of these guys in the NFL. So Pat Surtain, I feel confident lining him up. Now you can choose who is he going to line up against. Is he going to line up against CeeDee Lamb? Is he going to line up against George Pickens? Or maybe he starts the game on CeeDee Lamb, and then if George Pickens starts going off, maybe you move him over to guard George Pickens, and then you got to move someone else on to CeeDee Lamb. So it'll be interesting to see. I would say you follow CeeDee Lamb, maybe George Pickens. It depends on what you want to do. Maybe cover the hot hand, as I said, but my guess would be Pat Surtain covering CeeDee Lamb this week. Then you got George Pickens, who is a wide receiver 1 in his own right and was the Cowboys wide receiver 1 while CeeDee Lamb was down with the injury. And in 7 games so far this season, he has 36 receptions for 607 yards and 6 touchdowns. George Pickens has been phenomenal since coming over from Pittsburgh to Dallas. He has played amazing for the Cowboys, and they'll be going up against Riley Moss. And I think I've been a little harsh on Riley Moss, right? Targeted 41 times. That's what's going to happen when you got Pat Surtain lining up on the other side. I think the biggest thing that I was critical for Riley Moss is he's allowed a lot of big-time catches, right? I'm not going to blame him for that PI that he got called against the Giants, because I think that was kind of a baloney call. But there's some other passes that he's led up that were big-time completions, but I do think I've been a little harsh on Riley Moss, right? I don't think I've been entirely fair on him. He's allowed the lowest completion percentage in the NFL at 46.3%, allowed a passer rating of a 77.7 when targeted, 238 air yards, which isn't ideal, and then, of course, that big touchdown to Keenan Allen when we played the Chargers, and that was just a great throw by Herbert. But I do think I've been a little bit harsh on Riley Moss, so it'll be interesting to see how he lines up against George Pickens, because got Surtain going up against a wide receiver 1, and now you got Riley Moss lining up against a wide receiver 1 in George Pickens. Then you got Jalen Tolbert, the pride of South Alabama. He's going to go up against Jaquan McMillan, and honestly, Tolbert, I think he's kind of underrated. Hasn't really shown a whole lot this season, but he's got the speed dynamic. He's a deep threat. I do like what Jalen Tolbert brings to the table in terms of a tertiary receiver. He's going up against McMillan, who has been really solid playing in the slot, right? Gave up a couple completions last week, but I think McMillan has been phenomenal so far to start the season, right? Only giving up 99 air yards, 19 completions, has given up a touchdown, no picks, but has defended 2 passes because they really don't throw McMillan's way either. He's played phenomenal that he hardly gets targeted as well. Moving on to the rookie Jahdae Barron, who I've seen lined up all over the defense, right? And that's kind of what we were expecting when we drafted him, is he's kind of a Swiss Army knife, can play multiple positions, play all over the defense, right? And he's played solid, right? Want to see him get more snaps. I don't want anyone's snaps being taken away necessarily, but I would like to see Jahdae Barron used more on defense. As for the Cowboys tight end, they have Jake Ferguson, who has been phenomenal this season, right? 51 receptions for 334 yards and 6 touchdowns. He has really helped fill the void when CeeDee Lamb was out for the Dallas Cowboys. Then you got probably the weak links for the Broncos and Alex Singleton and Justin Strnad. Singleton, obviously his biggest weakness is in coverage, and I've been super critical on Alex Singleton this season, so I'll say something nice about Alex Singleton here. I want to give him a shout out for really blowing up Cam Scatabo when Jackson Dart threw that interception because it was a clean pocket other than Singleton rushing up the middle, and he blew up Scatabo, which honestly caused an errant throw from Jackson Dart to go and throw it near Justin Strnad for his interception, so I'll give that to him. But Singleton has really struggled in coverage, right? 80% completion percentage, 164 air yards, 137.4 passer rating when targeted, and 3 touchdowns through the air. The first one was a wheel route against Jonathan Taylor. The second one was a wheel route against Saquon Barkley. And then the third one was a big-time touchdown to Daniel Bellinger, who was left wide open down the field to open the scoring last week. So Singleton, his biggest weakness is in coverage. Do wonder, he's never been great at coverage, but I am curious if that ACL is affecting him in some way, shape, or form. But then Justin Strnad, he had been struggling in coverage to start the season, but honestly, these past 2 games against the Giants and against the Jets, he's been really solid in terms of his coverage, right? Only allowing a 63.6% completion percentage, 23 air yards, a 47.2 passer rating when targeted, and has that 1 interception, which really changed the momentum of the game. If Strnad doesn't get that interception, I don't think we win last week because they punted away. We have to drive almost the full length of the field, and I just don't know if we have enough time to drive down, make a stop, drive down again. Who knows? Maybe we do, and maybe they don't score that touchdown to take the lead before we go and kick the field goal. Who knows? But I do believe that interception was big time, and it really changed the momentum of the game to help the Broncos get that win. Then you got Brandon Jones and Talanoa Hufanga, and I am so glad that Brandon Jones was not on the injury report because at the end of the last game, Hufanga and Brandon Jones collided with each other, dropped a game-sealing interception, and it just looked bad. Brandon Jones had to be helped off the field, and PJ Locke had to finish the game for him. Glad Brandon Jones is back, though. He's been phenomenal all year, only giving up a 56.5% completion percentage, 52 yards through the air, a passer rating of 55 when targeted, and does have an interception, which was thrown by Justin Herbert. And then Talanoa Hufanga has been phenomenal as well. He's been everywhere for the Broncos. He's been making play after play after play. It feels like he's just making every single play on the field. He has been fantastic for the Broncos, really enjoying this safety tandem of Brandon Jones and Talanoa Hufanga back there, right? They're adding to a really, really nice secondary for us. Then let's take a look at the Broncos pass rush versus the Cowboys offensive line, and this should be a fun one, right? The Cowboys typically known throughout the years for their offensive line, and the Broncos, we have one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. This includes guys like Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Jonah Ellis, hopefully he's back this week, DJ Jones, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, Dondre Tillman. You can add Q Robinson to this list. He's been getting more action. But this team, or I guess this pass rush unit, has 112 tackles, 71 pressures, 23 sacks, 55 quarterback hits, and has blitzed 46 times. This unit has been phenomenal this season, and they'll be going up against this offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys, the Tylers plus Brock and Terrence, right? You got Tyler Guyton, former Oklahoma first-round pick, Tyler Smith, former Tulsa first-round pick, Tyler Booker, former Alabama first-round pick, and then you got Brock Hoffman at center and Terrence Steele at right tackle. This unit, they've been good this season, right? 8 sacks allowed, faced 65 blitzes. They've allowed Dak to be hurried 24 times, allowed Dak to be hit 18 times, and they've allowed 50 pressures, which is on 18.2% of Dak Prescott's dropbacks. As for the Cowboys pass rush that are going up against the Broncos offensive line, and just to be clear, I know it's kind of unfair, right? Because I have 5 guys listed here for the Cowboys and then 7 for the Broncos. I do know it's unfair and unproportional, disproportional, I should say. But if we balance it out for 5 each, the Broncos still would be ahead of these numbers. I'm just pointing that out there. I do want to say that. I do realize that it's kind of unfair, only including 5 players for the Cowboys. But so far, this unit of Sam Williams, Donovan Ezraku, Marshawn Nealon, Dante Fowler Jr., and Jadeveon Clowney have 45 pressures, 5 sacks, 21 quarterback hits on 8 blitzes, and 59 tackles on the season. And they'll be going up against this offensive line for the Broncos. Do know Ben Powers is in the picture. Of course, he is still on IR. Hopefully he can come back soon, but the offensive line is going to be Garrett Bowles, Alex Palczewski, Luke Wattenberg, Quinn Miners, and Mike McGlinchey. And so far this season, the line has given up 8 sacks, faced 42 blitzes, allowed Bo to be hurried 22 times and hit 16 times, and pressured on 46 of his dropbacks, which is 16.4% of Bo Nix's dropbacks. Let's look at the kickers. Will Lutz, 9 field goals made on 10 attempts. Of course, the one miss was against the Colts, which was a big-time miss, which would have forced the Colts to go score a touchdown on their final drive. 90% field goal accuracy, but he made up for it by kicking that game-winning field goal against the Giants. And, of course, he's made all 16 of his extra points. As for the Cowboys, they got Brandon Aubrey, who is one of the best kickers in the NFL, right? Not only is he accurate, but he's got a leg too, so he can make a kick from distance, especially at altitude. He is going to be a weapon for the Dallas Cowboys. Made all 15 of his field goals he's attempted this season. Has missed 1 extra point. And again, I probably should have looked this up, but I didn't. That might have been a blocked PAT. So maybe not in terms of accuracy, he missed it, but just in terms of a block. So he's hitting at a 95.8% extra point accuracy, but didn't look into that. Maybe it's a miss, maybe it's a block. Anyway, Brandon Aubrey, one of the best kickers, if not the best kicker in the NFL right now. Let's look at the returners. You got Marvin Mims in 7 games. He's returned 17 punts for 209 yards and 0 touchdowns. And he's returned 13 kicks for 352 yards. No touchdowns yet. Hoping Marvin can break one here soon. As for the Cowboys, they got Kevontae Turpin, who is another dangerous return man. He's returned 5 punts for 34 yards and 19 kicks for 485 yards. So he could break one at any moment. They've got a really nice return specialist in Kevontae Turpin that we have to watch out for. What are my final thoughts? This is going to be an interesting game, right? Obviously, the big storyline is the Cowboys haven't beaten us since 1995, I think it is. So almost 30 straight years that the Cowboys haven't beat us. Of course, we only play every 4 years. Maybe a little bit more often now that 17th game has been added, but this should be really interesting, right? The Broncos, we have one of if not the best defense in the NFL, and the Cowboys, their defense has been struggling throughout the year, obviously having a great game, their best game of the season last week. And then the Cowboys, they have a really good offense, one of the best in the NFL, versus the Broncos, who had a really strong fourth quarter, but has been struggling throughout the year so far. But sounds like Sean Payton's making some tweaks to that offense, so we'll have to see what happens. Should be a very fun game, especially with the throwbacks being rocked by the Broncos. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy this video. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Parker, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.